Right, so I'm just going to have a quick look at what a constructor does. So I've created a class here called person that's got, I mean, either shouldn't be public, but I'm just going to leave them as public. I should do private or make a property or do something, but I didn't bother. So obviously I can now do person p1 dot name equals Steve, p1 dot salary equals 30,000. And then I can console dot right line p1, and the reason I can do that is because I've overridden the to string, so it's going to return the name followed by the salary, and that will look good or normal. It'll go Steve dash whatever and a pound sign. There we go. So that's all the class does so far. So I've overridden the dot to string, which is what happens when you essentially when you run that, you are running that, you just don't need to say it. So I've overridden the dot to string, and I've returned a formatted string with a name dash pound sign salary. Okay, the problem is I've got to put p1.name and p1.salary here. So let's do it a different way. And if I run that, they're going to be blank. Yeah, and 0 obviously because the number was 0. So what if you want to set default values? And we do that with a constructor. And the reason we don't set it here, well, you can set it here, but the reason a constructor allows you to run more code, and so it's therefore more useful. So we do public, we do it the name of the class, and I'm going to do one that accepts no parameters. Yeah, you'll be so then I'm going to put name equals, I don't know, let's just put default. Yeah, go, and then salary. I wonder why it was moaning at me. It was only moaning at me because I didn't put something in. Let's put 10,000 as a default salary. I don't know. So now that's going to be our default values because it's going to run that constructor, okay, with no parameters. So that's a constructor with no parameters. See? So when I made the person here, I didn't put anything in there, but we can do constructors with parameters. So I could then do one with string n and float. Is it a float? No, it's an integer. Int s, and then I do name equals n, salary equals s. And now if I do a new person and I put in parameters in here, then it's going to put those in to the correct thing there, and that's a constructor. So you often have many constructors. You could even have one that only takes the name, and then you know you would do that, and then you would just set that to the default one, and then you can, so you know, if you run it with just the name, then you'll get the default values for the rest. So have a look at the constructors there. That's what a constructor does. It's code that's run on instantiation of a class. So when the class has turned into an actual thing, a creation of it has happened, instantiated an object of it, and then depending on the parameters you put in here, it will execute a different, the matching constructor. So for example, you can even have one with just int, and then depending on whether you put an int there or a string, it'll run the different constructor. So normally you just have sort of no parameters and then kind of all the parameters. Obviously you could have many others that do many different ones. If you've got a really long thing here, and maybe some of the things are just false, 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 false for various things. I'm getting an error now because there's no constructor that just takes string sorry. So I'd need to put either add an integer or remove Dave. But yeah, that's what a constructor does.